All right, well, welcome everybody to part 2 and also standalone of Can Your Preschooler Play Chess? I'm going to mute everybody. We are really excited to have our partners at Chess for Life doing these sessions, and I want to let everybody know that we have a couple other things coming up. Strengthening Families is really great for both parents and staff. That's on Monday afternoons. We have Spanish language story time on Friday afternoons, and we have a great session about stress in times of crisis next week with Paul Figueroa. And I will put the link to the list of courses in the chat for everybody. And let's get started. Elliot?
Okay, thank you. Thanks for joining us. Excited to be here again with the Early Learning Chess. And so we do have some people who are new to this weekly, so far, live episode. Happy to figure this out with the team. Thank you, Joel. Thank you, Katie. Before I dive right into the activities, Joel, did you have any announcements you wanted to kick off with, or should I just go right forward?
No, why don't you go ahead?
Okay, sounds great. And with me is Paul Faraca. Paul, you want to introduce yourself a sec for the new friends here?
Yep, happy to. So Paul Faraca, I'm Director of Training at Chess for Life. Been here for about 7 years. Work closely with Elliot and other team members on the early learning chess side. I actually go and teach this curriculum also in a preschool class that where my cousin works. So I'm actually in the classroom with 16 4-year-olds doing this curriculum, testing new ideas out. So it's really fun. But happy to be here. I'm excited to show you a few more activities, do a little review from last week if you weren't here, and hopefully build your confidence in bringing chess into your home with your little ones or bringing it into your school.
Thank you, Paul, for doing that. And I will say right up front, I'm once again, I didn't tell anybody this, I will give out one more copy of my autographed book, Upon's Journey. It's a 6th grade reading level, a novel inspired by true life stories. So we'll do that at the end. Happy to do so. A few other fun announcements I expect to do as we go. To get started with this, let's understand for a moment, if you could either put it into chat, if you're able to chat to everyone, your role. So are you on the call as a parent, as a teacher, as a staff member? Please put that into the chat button. That would be great. So please do so. Okay, we've got ECAP teacher, we have ECAP teacher's aid. If you don't know how to do it, I have cleared the yes, no buttons. You should have a hand button as well. If you click the hand button, that's like raising your hand under the participants list, and we can help you figure that piece out. Joel, I like your how do I respond to that one?
Confirm.
Okay, teacher's aide, family services advocate. Welcome, Sherry. Awesome. Excellent. Okay, so Roberto was not here last time. Many of us on spring break next week. Good to know. So maybe we should skip next week. We can talk about that later, and I'm sure it'll go in the announcements. Okay. Very good. Excellent. Thank you. And now let me do one more. I don't see any hands raised. If you couldn't find the hand button, you can always use the, click any of the buttons. It'll catch our attention. Let's move next to the following question. How many of you on this call know how to play chess somewhat? Like you know how some of the pieces move. And to do that, hit the yes button. If you don't know how a single piece moves, just hit the red button. And not knowing a single thing about how the pieces move does not matter at all. It will be totally fine on this call for the tools. It looks like a few of you have the green button, maybe because of last week, maybe otherwise. Okay, excellent. Thank you for posting those. And to move into that, I also want to just share, like, if this is your first time, early learning kindergarten readiness through the chess program requires zero chess background, and most strong chess players can be challenged in trying to bring this to the kids. This is about education. It's not about becoming a great chess player, but the concepts is what we focus on. So that through playing fun little activities, the kids will build their counting, their problem solving, their working together, their social emotional, their language skills. All these different elements are tied directly to it, and you'll get to see some of that. So thank you for posting the answers in there. A little bit of my background for the new ones. I am the founder of Chess for Life, been partner in crime with Joel for the last 3.5 years to help bring these benefits to kids, very locally at first, then expanding to statewide and beyond. And thank you, Boeing, once again for really helping fund this project, and super excited for bringing these benefits far beyond even what started right here in our backyard. So that's the tiny bit on my background. You can always learn more at chessforlife.com, different places. So let's dive right in. To do this, I'm going to ask Paul, our director of training, to lead off with a very short review of what we did last time. And this way you can see what it looks like on a physical board. And I have a digital board as well, which I may at a certain point switch to, just so you can see it different ways. But we want you to see what those pieces look like with the kids. So Paul, can you take it from here?
Yes, okay, so can everybody see my chessboard? And are the letters the right direction for you? Because in my screen, they're all backwards. But I think that means they're good for you. Yes, okay. All right, so to help this, because I'm talking now, my screen is present as the, make sure my screen stays up if, Elliot jumps in and talks. At the very top, you'll see all the little boxes with everybody's video in it. If you go and scroll over and find mine, the Chess for Life Paul one, and go hover over the little video box with my chessboard in it, there should be 3 little dots that you can click on. And if you click on those 3 little dots, there should be an option to pin video. And if you pin my video to your Zoom screen, then when Elliot jumps in to add commentary or give feedback, then it will stay on my chessboard so you don't lose the visual. So go ahead, try to pin my screen. Again, you find the little video box at the top of your Zoom window and 3 little dots next to your mute button, and click pin video. Okay, so last week we talked about one of the smallest pieces on the board and saw how to set it up. Let's see if who remembers. Go ahead and chat the name of this piece if you remember. We have a dark and a light version of that piece. Go ahead and chat it if you remember. Okay, Angela says pawn, great. We all in agreement? Excellent. Okay, so the pawn. And now for bonus points, who remembers on the call, maybe you watched the video or maybe just know chess. Does anybody remember which row the light pawns go on? They go on a certain number rank or row. Does anybody remember? Go ahead and chat the number in. Angela guesses 2. Any other thoughts? 2 from Sherry. Okay. Just 2 over 2. So light pawns, they make a line together on the second rank, is the chess language. A rank is just a row. So they line up on the second rank, and the dark pawns, go ahead and chat in if you know where the dark pawns line up. Ooh, Sherry was very quick with that one. They go on the 7th rank, exactly. So this is what we covered last week. And what we talked about is your students or your children at home, this is a really fun, easy activity for them to do. You ask them to find the smallest pieces, which are going to be all the pawns. There's a lot of them, so this works great for counting. So you can count all the pawns up, the light ones, the dark ones together. They get to find the numbers on the chessboards. And a quick tip for you, if you have a chessboard at home that doesn't have letters and numbers, just put a piece of masking tape along one side and write A through H, and then 1 through 8 on the numbers. Then it's really easy for your students and your children to find the number 2 and line their pawns up, find the number 7 and line their pawns up. After they have this down, you can do a fun race where you get a timer out, push all the pawns into the middle, and see how quickly your students can set up the board. And you can do this with another student or a sibling or a family member, and you can just time yourselves and see if you can set a new record for setting up the pawns. So a very simple, fun activity. They don't need to know anything about chess beyond that to do that fun activity. And it works on counting, it works on teamwork, it works on comparing and contrasting, because they have to find the smallest piece amongst all the big pieces. All right, so the new activity I want to introduce today is still working with the pawns. And now this time, though, we're going to start moving them on the chessboard. So the first version of this activity is we just get 3 pawns each of each color, and we want to line them up so they're on their starting row. So the light ones are on the 2, the dark ones are on the 7. And we want them to be directly across from each other. So they're facing each other. And in chess, it's very simple. The pawn moves 1 square forward. So if I was going to move a light pawn, he just moves 1 square forward and his turn is done. Then the dark team gets the move. And again, the pawn moves 1 square forward. Really simple. Most kids and young kids kind of understand this concept. It's very, very straightforward. And now we just take turns. And so this game is really great for 2 kids to play together, because now they're going to work on self-control, and they're going to work on taking turns and having to keep their hands off the pieces while their partner's moving. And so this is where you get into the social emotional aspects of the game. And again, we're just going to trade turns, moving our pawns 1 square forward. And the kids get to choose whatever pawn they want. And eventually, the pawns meet in the middle somewhere. And it may look, doesn't matter based on how many pawns they moved. But eventually the pawns meet. And we like to say when pawns meet, they stop and have a talk. They chat, they talk about their day, and eventually they get stuck right here. So in chess, these pawns can't go anywhere. And so that's activity number 1. It's just moving the pawns so they all meet in the middle, shake hands, say hi, and have a fun conversation. So now you're asking, well, what happens? How do we move on from here? So the second activity is really easy. You just keep the pawns where they are, or you line the pawns up in the middle, and pawns capture diagonally.
So let me interrupt 1 sec here, Paul.
Yes.
I just wanted to add one more note. If you're doing this with a number of students, it's really fun to have the students pretend they're pawns. So you can literally do this on the floor, where you can have them learn to line up together side by side. You can just have a couple at a time do it. You can have a group do it. Whether you have the giant chess carpet or not, you can have them walk like a pawn. So I'm going to take 1 step and then wait for you to take a turn. And you take 1 step. And when we meet, we say hi. And we've met in the middle. So it's really cool to involve movement with the students in as many of these activities as possible. And you'll see in the curriculum tools that were developed ways that you can integrate that movement. So back to you, Paul.
Yeah, thanks. That's a great point. Integrating big motor movement into this is definitely part of our curriculum. And in our curriculum, we even include activities where they get to move around. And we've even had some teachers and parents just take tape and tape out a small little grid on the floor, on the carpet, and make that a little chess grid. You don't have to do all the squares, but just a little section for kids to walk in. Okay, so when pawns or meet in the middle, you can have the kids now line up their pawns just like this. And pawns now capture diagonally. And this is a fun word to teach your students. You might get a few different pronunciations of the word diagonal, but if you use it consistently, you'll find that students actually start using that word in their games. So Elliot, it looks like you jumped to a screen share. Elliot, you there?
Sorry, I was trying to have you all read my lips. So I switched to my screen just because you might get another visual here on a digital chessboard because of the angle of your camera, Paul. It might be slightly challenging. So I'm just going to show how here I can use a tool on my screen. Can you all see my screen share with the pawns? So this is the position we have. So in this way, the light pawns are moving up the board. The dark pawns are moving down the board. They've met in the middle. And now to Paul's point, the way pawns normally move, and I'm going to put an extra pawn over here, is just one square straight forward. And so that's how the pawns would be moving. Once they're in the middle, this next step is learning how those pawns capture. And what's unique about the pawns is they capture diagonally. So this pawn can capture diagonally and take out that one. It does not jump, it just moves diagonally. So here, if you wanted to capture this pawn, you see how this one could take it. You see pawns move straight forward and don't capture the way they move. They capture only diagonally. And so it takes a while before you bring that concept to a student, because it's like you capture differently than you move, right? That's a more complex concept. And so, but this is a way to take it to the next level once they know. And you'll notice that by starting with this position of just three of the pawns meeting each other, the only choice is to capture. There's no other move possible. So I'm going to move back off my screen, back to you, Paul, but just wanted to use that visual there.
Yep, thanks, Elliot. That was great.
You're welcome. I got to find my stop share. Yeah, I'm still getting used to this. I know there's a way to do it.
Should hover at the top of your screen, red toolbar. It might be on your second screen.
I'll find it here in a sec. There it is. It was hidden behind. There we go.
All right, so welcome back to the physical chessboard here. So you saw Elliot, right? So we move our pawn diagonal, and it literally just takes over the square, and that other piece comes off. And then if the dark pawn wanted to capture one, it would just move diagonal, take that pawn. And now when kids start collecting pawns, right, they have something else they can now count. And then, so there's nothing else for the pawns to capture. There's no other pieces diagonal. So now these pieces would just continue their march forward. So there's nothing in their way now to stop them, and they can make it all the way to the end. So the first activity was just moving pawns one square forward until they get stuck in the middle and meet and talk. The second activity is then working on sliding and capturing. And now the third activity you can do is putting it all together. So you can have them start back on their starting squares, and you can have them take their one step forward until they meet in the middle. And then when they meet in the middle, they can capture. And then their goal is to try to get a pawn to the other side of the chessboard. So the great thing about all these activities is all of them are progressive, right? So we start very simple, we add a little bit more, we add a little bit more, and eventually once they have that down, right, then we can add another pawn, and we can add another pawn. And you can even do it where you get to a certain number of pawns, and now the kids get to decide where they want their pawns to go. So they might line a couple over here, they might spread them out. And so this is really fun because these are young students, they get to have a little bit of control and a little bit of decision making in their lives, where they get to be in charge of the chessboard, and they get to be in charge of these pawns and where they line up. And eventually, you know, you'll get to a game where you have all of your pawns versus all the other pawns. And the goal of the game is to try to march your pawns across the board and eventually, you know, get one to the other side. So this is a really fun, simple game for students. And now it starts building in a little bit more of the game of chess, where they're taking turns. They get to try to capture somebody's pieces. Where the first activity we did was more cooperative, where they were working together to move the king around the board.
So I want to jump in here, and we are moving very quickly through these activities because we're talking to you as, you know, educators, right? We're not obviously doing this live with a young student, or it would look much, much, much slower. For example, if you're working with the 3-year-olds to 4-year-olds, or even a 5-year-old that's their first time doing it, you may be doing this activity with only one pawn each. And then you may add more pawns as age appropriate. And so they can count the pawns as they do it, right? This activity, as you can see, can be expanded or reduced according to the group you're working with. Because if you start out with 16 pawns in a young group, well, guess what happens? I think you all know, right? We've seen it. The pawns are like balls. You can throw them, you can toss them, right? So giving them only a handful, a couple of pieces that is appropriate for that age group, and then you build their skill and their ability to manage more pieces. But these are the fun ways you can use the pawn. So again, back to you, Paul.
Okay, so we're almost out of time. Should I jump into one more simple activity, or should we wrap up?
Let's open it up a sec for questions.
Okay.
So what questions do you have on those activities? What challenges do you see that could block it? How confident are you that you could do these with your kids? In fact, if you use the green button, you can use the green button to say, yes, this was good. I get it. Please put in the chat box any questions you may have. And we'll just take a moment here. Denise, very cool.
And while you're checking those chat boxes, I want to remind you, we didn't say this yet on this call, but the getting your younger students or children to do chess activities like this, we're not trying to build strong chess players. We're really using these activities and these games to help develop kindergarten readiness. So we want to count moves as we make them. We can count pieces as we capture them. They're working on those social emotional skills. They're working on basic math. They're learning new words like diagonal or forward and backward. So I just want to make that clear that while we're doing chess with these students, over a whole year, the goal is not to get them playing full chess games with all the pieces. It's really to help prepare them for kindergarten.
Joel, you sent a little note about something you used to remember how to do this. Absolutely. Paul and I spoke before this call, and it's been a very busy time, as we all know, but we will be happy to share the resources for exactly how to lead these activities. So you don't have to write down and remember all these steps. So more than happy to share those resources out to you. Paul, you can take charge of getting those out.
Yes,
and I realize time is running short very quickly. I wanted to do just a couple quick things here before we wrap up. I would have loved to do another activity, but time just flies away so quickly here. Here's the one I wanted to talk about. How many of you know about the point value of the chess pieces? This is a way to build the early math skills. So there's actually an assigned value per piece. And so the pawn is the littlest one. So guess how many points the pawn is worth? Anybody? You can, if you got your video on, just show on your fingers is what I asked the kids. So we could do that. Hey, Joel, you got it. The pawn is worth 1 point. It's the smallest piece. And what happens is the power of the piece determines its point value. So there are 2 pieces that are each worth 3. Any guess which pieces those are? Anybody know? Not sure? Okay, Paul, go ahead. Those are the bishop and the knight. The bishop and the knight. So the bishop and the knight looks like a horse. The bishop is a little taller. It's worth 3. Next comes the rook, which starts in the corner of the board. And the rook is worth 5 points. And again, we'll be able to give you a guide that has all these on it. And the piece that is worth the most is the queen. She has the crown that goes all the way around her top. So the queen is worth 9. And the king doesn't have any points. And the reason for that is the goal of the game is to get the king. So you would never trade the king. So a fun game that we do with these points, and I'm going to once again share my screen here, is this, where we can say, okay, students, who can find 1 point of material? And they should find a pawn and hold it up or place it anywhere they like on the board. Who can find me 2? And they could put 2 pawns. Who can find me 3? And you'll see a kid bring out 3 pawns. And you can go, who can find me 3 with just 1 piece? And they can hold up a bishop or a knight. And so the game of helping them count and correlate pieces and their values is a beautiful math game. Just for you, I have put together a little fun quiz I'm going to put in the chat. This is a little Google form where you can go through it as a quiz. If you don't get it correct, it'll give you a score, show you the correct, and you can take it again. So this one has each of the pieces and its point value. Feel free to share that link around. It's in the chat link. I put it in the forums there, and it's a fun way to go through figuring out what each piece is worth. So there's a little tool for you. And at this point, I'm ready to, are we ready to wrap up? It's almost 1 o'clock. I'm ready to do our book drawing to give away my book again. Anything else you want to add first? Joel, Paul?
I just want to see if anybody has any last minute questions here. Any burning questions that you feel would be great to get an answer.
Tasha noted on her hand up. Tasha, can I unmute you? Do you have a question you'd like to ask? I'm trying to unmute it.
I think if you click unmute it, ask the person on their end to they would like to unmute their mic. So
Tasha, if you're able to, there we go. Go ahead.
No, I don't have any questions. The only thing I typed was just letting you guys know that I did watch the one from last week that I wasn't on.
Great.
Great.
Okay. Thank you, Tasha. Any other questions? Anyone? Denise, to unmute yourself.
No, I lost my picture.
There we go.
of you again.
Okay. Well, Denise, did you have a question you wanted to ask?
No, but I thought that was very interesting how to involve math with this game.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll be happy to share the resources if you'd like. There are lesson plans laid out for working with kids. You can do it one-on-one, group, and so on. And let's move now. Any other last comments, Joel?
Nope. I think you guys got it covered really well.
Thank you. It's fun to do this. And because it's recorded, those of you that this is your first one, feel free to go back to the other one to listen to more of those activities we did last week. So here we go.
And Elliot, if you could email me the link to the resources and this link in an email with whatever else, and so I can send it out to all the people who registered for this one and the last one with the links to the videos as well.
Sure thing. I will ask Paul to take ownership of sending out the resources.
Yes, I will
and
do that.
and then I will be sure to send the link for this random, for the pieces point quiz. Okay, to get the book, the way we do this is you have to choose a number between 1 and 100, and I use a random number generator to find out who was closest. So that is how it works. So go ahead and put into chat your number. And once everybody's number is in, then I will jump into the random generator. So go ahead and just post your numbers. If you want to chat them privately so no one sees yours, you can chat them privately to me. Joel, he's over the top. Let's see. Okay, and I will share my screen so you can see the random generator. Is everybody in that wants to be in? We good? On your marks, get set, drum roll. Our winner is whoever's closest to 79. Who would that be?
It's like Angela.
Angela would be 12 from it. Is anybody closer than 12? I think our winner, Angela. Congratulations. You get the one today. Now, last week, we asked you to put your address into chat, and I didn't copy down the winner from last week. So if anybody, Serena was the winner from last week. She's not on the call, so we're going to still track down her address. Angela, if you could email your address, are you okay doing that? Okay, I'm gonna chat in here right now, if you can see it. My direct address, please copy and paste it. There you go. It has 2 L's, 2 T's, 2 F's with a little dot in between my first and last name. Please email your address. And if you don't hear a reply from me within 48 hours, please reach out again. Okay. Angela, congratulations. I have one more announcement is I've been working today to help people get chess sets. And there is a website through my brother and through a donor giving away 510 chess sets. I don't know if they're all gone yet. It's really close. They've added a few more. I just chatted the link for that as well. Go ahead and check there. If you don't have a chess set at home, you'd like to try to get one, feel free to do that. You can read a little bit about it, but feel free to go in there. I chatted that out just now. So thank you very much, Katie. Thank you for hosting as always. And that was a beautiful surprise seeing the background of the kids that we've worked with at different times. So well done, Katie, on hosting, and I'll turn it back to you. Can't hear you, Katie.
Maybe she's not.
It's just muted.
Yeah, maybe she's muted or she's in the middle of a game. I don't know. But I'm happy to close this out too and just say thank you to everybody. If you have friends that are interested or other teachers you think that would be interested in learning how integrating the early learning chess curriculum into their daily programming, whether it's your modified services or just working with your kids at home, please ask them to join this. We're going to do this weekly, this 30-minute lesson. And we're just glad that you came out and joined us today. So thanks for doing that.
Very good. Thank you, Joel. Appreciate that. We'll see you next time.
All right. See you guys. Thanks again for joining us.
Bye,
See you
everyone.
next week.
Yeah.